beholding infinite beauty face to face. That's a wonderful image. Notice what he said, the ecstasy of interpersonal immersion. Shall I say that again? Okay. You have been created and redeemed for the eternal ecstasy. I love that image. He's got that in mind for us. Of interpersonal immersion. Notice not absorption. That's an important distinction. But you're going to be immersed in His love, but not absorbed by Him. Into the triune Godhead, beholding infinite beauty face to face. So that you're going to behold that beauty, and He, you will see, is the beauty that is the basis for all the beauties you've ever known in this world. And you will find that He is the one you're looking for. So He wants a world full of beings united to Him, but still distinct. And that is where the troughs come in. You must have often wondered why the enemy does not make more use of his power to be sensibly present to human souls in any degree he chooses and at any moment. In other words, why doesn't God always show Himself fully present? You ever ask yourself this question? Haven't there been times when you felt close to God, and there are other times when you feel that your prayers are hitting the ceiling? You sometimes have to reflect on that, and Lewis is describing it. But now you see that the irresistible and the indisputable are the two weapons which the very nature of His scheme forbids Him to use. He refuses to be a cosmic rapist, you see. The idea is that He will not force Himself upon him. In fact, your will is so valuable because it is part of the Imago Dei that He cannot reduce your will or challenge your will because love requires reciprocity and volition. There's no basis for love unless there is a freedom to give and to receive. And therefore God will not use the irresistible and the indisputable. There will be times when He actually withdraws His palpable presence to cause us to walk by faith and not by sight. He will not overwhelm us. Merely, he says, goes on to say, to override a human will as His felt presence in any but the faintest and most mitigated degree would certainly do, would be for Him useless. He cannot ravish, He can only woo. You see, God will not ravish you. He will woo you. He will draw you. But you always have the dignity of choice and the awful power of saying no. That is a chilling and frightening power that you have. But you also have the glorious power of saying yes, that Thy will be done. For, Lewis goes on to write, His ignoble idea is to eat the cake and have it. The creatures are to be one with Him, but yet themselves, merely to cancel them or assimilate them, will not serve. He has prepared to do a little overriding at the beginning. Have you noticed this? When a person first becomes a believer, he does a little overriding. I don't know about your experience, but in my experience as a new believer, God was very manifest, and the answers to prayer were particularly powerful and clear. No ambiguity in many cases. And that was a kind of like a honeymoon period that some people describe early on. So He's prepared to do a little overriding at the beginning. He will set them off with communications of His presence, which, though faint, seem great to them. You see, the greatest experience you've had with God is 1,000 removes from the wellspring, because you wouldn't be able to stand the joy. Seem great to them with emotional sweetness and easy conquest over temptation. But He never allows the state of affairs to last long. Sooner or later, He withdraws, if not in fact, at least from their conscious experience, all those supports and incentives. He leaves the creature to stand up on its own legs, to carry out from the will alone duties which have lost all relish. It is during such trough periods, much more than during the peak periods, that it is growing into the sort of creature He wants it to be. Notice what Lewis is saying, that it's going to be the times of adversity when God seems remote and distant that He may be working most profoundly and effectively in your life. You've got to begin to change your perspective, your orientation, and to realize that distance may in fact be a necessary grace, a severe mercy, because it may be the means by which He gets our attention. You see, he goes on to say, hence the prayers offered in the state of dryness are those which pleases Him most. We can drag our patients along by continual tempting because we designed them only for the table, and the more their will is interfered with, the better, they say. He cannot tempt us to virtue as we do to vice. He wants them to learn to walk and must therefore take away his hand. Again, another metaphor. There comes a point where you have to let loose of your child and let them learn to walk. And though you know they will stumble and so forth, if you imagine an adult being held by his father because he hasn't learned to walk and he has to be carried along, what a pathetic picture that would be. And if only the will to walk is really there, and this is the issue, the will comes down to the will. If it's only that there, he's pleased even with their stumbles. You see, again I say that God is impossible to impress but easy to please. Do not be deceived, Wormwood, and here is the gem that I wanted to bring you to. This is the payoff for this whole letter. Our cause is never more in danger than when a human no longer desiring but still intending. You catch the difference again? It's not your feeling, the desire, but it's your intention, your will. You have the power to intend even when the feelings are not present. So that our cause is never more in danger than when a human no longer desiring but still intending to do our enemy's will looks round upon a universe from which every trace of him seems to have vanished and asks why he has been forsaken and still obeys. That's a powerful word, you see. That is when the gates of hell are shaken, because you become a fearful opponent when that occurs. And in my view, God is using those troughs then, and those times which seem to be at first, gosh, why aren't you answering my prayer, may be the most significant moments in your spiritual formation. And it is a perspective we must come to see. Yes, God also has examples of people who overcame in changed circumstances, and both are necessary. That there's nothing impossible to the hand of God. Jeremiah 32, 26 to 27 makes that very clear. That there's nothing impossible of his fulfillment. That he could deliver us from anything he chooses to. But he chooses not always to do that. And the reason why he chooses it is because a loving hand knows exactly what we need, whereas we do not. Any closing thoughts on that? Oh, I'm sure that's fairly clear. Pretty straightforward? Yes. Yes. Lewis?
You see this throughout, as a nation, deliver us from the Egyptians, deliver us from the Babylon. And what it seems like the whole message is get off of your temporal perspective and develop an eternal perspective, and then your circumstances will not dictate where you are in your relationship with God.
Yes, that's right. In fact, you just made me think of Isaiah 40, which is precisely that image there. Here they're looking at comfort, being comforted because they've been told that they're going into Babylonian captivity. Nevertheless, comfort, O comfort my people, says your God. Speak kindly to Jerusalem. And call out to her that her warfare is ended, that her iniquity has been removed, that she has received of the Lord's hand double for all her sins. And then there's this imagery of the one who's coming in the way of the wilderness. But he goes on to give a description. Get the long-term perspective. He's measured the waters in the hollow of his hand. Who has directed the Spirit of the Lord, or as his counselor has informed him? With whom did he consult, and who gave him understanding? In other words, get your perspective and embrace that. To whom will you liken God? Or what likeness will you compare with him? Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been declared to you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is he who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in. It is he who reduces rulers to nothing, who makes the judges of the earth meaningless. So what is he trying to do? He's saying, though Babylon looks like a fierce enemy, nevertheless God is in control.